Well. Michael Irvin is so practical. I mean, without all of the jargon and the stats and the film, he's so practical. I've been listening to his reaction to the Cowboys losing to the Detroit Lions, and I'm assuming this was after the game. I don't know exactly when this posted. I didn't even know it was available until I think this morning. And so I've been listening to bits and pieces. I released a video earlier, and it's so good. I want to come back and release another video about what he said about the Cowboys' loss. And some of the things that he said about this loss are some of the same things I said after this loss on my live stream that night. And so I really want to let you hear Michael Irvin just really bring home some of the same points I made with just so much more clarity because of his experience. Yeah, I think every Dallas Cowboy fan needs to hear what Michael Irvin said about Brian Schottenheimer and the Cowboys' loss. Let's talk Cowboys. We're about to talk facts. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this video, don't forget at the end to please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live. If you haven't become a channel member subscriber yet, what are you waiting on? We got a lot more things coming up this season. Now let's talk facts. Michael Irvin. Again, Michael Irvin is my favorite wide receiver of all time. I wouldn't take anybody over him. Only discussion would be Jerry Rice and Calvin Johnson in his prime. But I would probably take Michael Irvin, and I know I would take Michael Irvin over all of them because of his mentality, his will. And when you listen to him talk, you can just hear the will that he was able to help and lead the Cowboys win 3 Super Bowls. And so as he's talking about this game of the Dallas Cowboys, he's giving some very practical observations of what happened in this game. So without further ado, I'm going to let you hear Michael Irvin, and I'll interject from time to time to let you know some of the same points I made the night after the game. Without further ado, let's roll it.
Because the Cowboys couldn't keep up with that offense without having a CeeDee Lamb. And I think that's where we start this conversation. It's not about the score being 44-30. Honestly, this conversation tomorrow will be about a lot of things. Like, the Cowboys put themselves in this bind by waiting so long to at least show up. And now they've shown up on offense in some games, and in some games show up on defense. And then in some games, they show up on both at different times. But the bind the Cowboys had put themselves in meant they had to show up all the time from here on out.
Yeah. Kansas City might have been the most complete that we've seen the Cowboys play. But in particular, though, what Michael Irvin is talking about, and I mentioned this, that they had to do this in this Detroit game, and they didn't do. They needed to start faster. And I don't know what's going on with Brian Schottenheimer's play calling or the team, but they just don't start fast offensively. And in order for the Cowboys to win this game or to beat Detroit, they needed to start fast. They needed to start fast. And again, typical Cowboys, they started slow.
And though CeeDee Lamb had over 100 yards and was having a hell of a game, he didn't show up the second half because of a concussion. A lot of that Cowboys offense with CeeDee Lamb didn't show up the first half because of Detroit.
I made this point. So many people want to blame Dallas and like the Dallas Cowboys collapsed. No, the Detroit Lions had a huge part to do with that. They called a spectacular game against the Dallas Cowboys. This is why George Pickens was so mad at Richard Sherman, because the Detroit Lions, they did something that no other team has done, and I think other teams are going to do it. That unstoppable slant play, the Detroit Lions stopped it. They made the cornerback play real tight coverage, and wherever he was, whether it was zone or man, they would always cheat whoever was in the vicinity. They cheated them towards George Pickens. And that's how they stopped it, and that's how you saw that tip up pass, and then the linebacker picked it off and kind of broke the game wide open. But a lot of what happened to the Cowboys had to do with the Detroit Lions.
And that offensive line, who gave up 5 sacks, didn't show up like they needed to. And the offense in a whole, who gave up 3 turnovers, didn't show up like they needed to. So this is exactly what I was worried about. When they were playing teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, they felt a certain need, an urgency to rise up and be their best them. And then they come into a place where Detroit was banged up, and they did not show up as their best them. And ever, in any case that you hope you'll have a champion, the champion's got to show up. And I don't mind you're not showing up your best. I need you always showing up with your best effort. Some days shit are just shit. And it ain't going.
You know, it's funny. Everybody's only talking about George Pickens when it comes to this thing as it applies to effort. But Irvin is talking about everybody.
All right. And you may not win, and it may not work out. But the one thing that you must control is how hard you play all the time. And I don't think the Cowboys controlled that tonight. Detroit was in panic mode. The Cowboys were in pat on the back mode. Everybody has been patting them on the back. Good job, y'all doing it, we doing it. I'm included, and I'm guilty. While Detroit was in, oh shit, life on the line, do or die, we have to do it right now. And you saw the difference in that game.
I mentioned this. I said it was going to be a dogfight because Detroit was desperate. This was the beginning of the end if Detroit loses this game. They lost their window last year. I don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl this year. Dan Campbell was desperate to win this game. Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions were desperate to win this game. Irvin is saying something. Cowboys were not playing in desperation mode. I said earlier in the week that Brian was acting cocky, and I liked it. But I also said that there's a difference in being cocky and confident. I'm confident when I know that I'm just better than you. I'm not just better than you. I know I'm going to perform. I perform consistently. I just know that there is no way you can beat me. That's confidence. But then you start talking about cockiness, and you might not have any of those things going for you. You just may be cocky because everybody's been saying that you're this, that, and the other. And so that cockiness, when they got on the field, when they got punched in the face, I said this pregame, I said the Cowboys were going to have to absorb a lot of punches from the Detroit Lions, and then they were going to have to punch back. Problem is they didn't punch back. And every time they tried to punch back, they made a mistake. Whether it was a penalty, whether it was a fumble. And then when they tried to punch back, then it was the referees. I said it on the night they got beat, Thursday night. The Cowboys got beat by the Lions, the refs, and themselves. But some of this is coming from exactly what Irvin is talking about. Cowboys were not in desperation mode. You would not have thought that if they won that game, they controlled their own destiny. It's like they kind of walked into Detroit expecting to win, and not just because they were going to execute, but, man, we got to be careful with this, just because they were the Cowboys. Just because they were the Cowboys. And being the Cowboys ain't good enough. They got to be the performing Cowboys, the one we saw the last 3 weeks to win.
It wasn't about skill. It was about perspective. And Detroit's perspective was death before defeat. Because if we have defeat, it is death.
Yep, I said
Cowboys
it.
didn't read it that way. That's why they're tasting defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing Jimmy would always do, like when we got on a roll like that, Jimmy became harder. I didn't want to bring it up, but I should have. And I wondered if Shotty could see this, and does he do that? I know everything feels good. You just beat the current champs and you're beating the perennial champs. And everybody feel like we got it. But that's when you have to put your foot down. Just take care of all the small mistakes. And I'm not important to this. I'm a little disappointed with what I saw. Because I believe the Cowboys could have beat that team.
This was talked about in the Netflix series. Jimmy made practice hell so the games could be heaven. Jimmy never wanted his team. And this is the thing that Brian is, I don't know if he can do it. I pray and hope he can do it. But I'm telling you, man, I said this before, there'll never be another Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy was never satisfied with winning. That's exactly what you want. Jimmy wasn't satisfied with winning. He wasn't satisfied with a winning season. He wasn't satisfied with one Super Bowl. He wasn't satisfied with 2 Super Bowls. Jimmy was never satisfied with winning. And we, after winning those 3 games, it seemed like we got a little satisfied with winning. Social media really hurts this age and era. It's not really conducive, and we talk about mental health, and we talk about, things like, being mentally ready for the challenge the Cowboys faced. But this era, it's not really conducive for that. Too much social media, too much information, too much access, too much reading other people's thoughts. And sometimes, man, Michael Irvin is talking about the proverbial pat on the back. I mean, it's the approval of people. It's the approval of the media. It's approval of fans. It's approval of everybody. And before you know it, you get to smelling yourself a little bit, and you go out there against a team like the Detroit Lions that everybody was ready to write off and ready to crown the Cowboys as the Super Bowl favorites, and the Detroit Lions went out there and knocked them off.
CeeDee Lamb got hurt going for a pass. It would have been a hell of a grab. Reached out, throw one hand to pull it back in and try to grab it back to center mass, and then close up, ball fell through. And then he hit the ground and hit his head. And I knew when he hit his head, because it was in that frozen mode. I said, oh, God. I was worried we had lost George Pickens earlier on the play. Remember that play?
Yeah, he fell on that shoulder.
Jumped up, and the guy hit him. The guy knocked himself out, but George Pickens landed on that shoulder, and he was walking off shaking. I was like, damn.
I thought he was going to.
Always like this. It's so hard to play. I would say if I rank, like New Orleans was first, and Detroit was right there too. The hardest places to play because those people in that dome just be so crazy. Your bone be moving. Your bones in your body literally be rattling while you're trying to hear the call. So I knew this was going to be a tough game. And I worried about the toughness of the Dallas Cowboys, and they couldn't match it.
Nope.
They could not match it.
I said it was going to be a physical game too. Detroit is the best tackling team in the league. They are the best tackling team in the league. They swarm to the ball. They not only make great one-on-one tackles, they make great game tackles. They swarm to the ball. Case in point, how they were able to stop that slant play with George Pickens, how they were able to tip a pass up in the air, linebacker comes right behind, boom, gets an interception. They are a very physical team. And the Cowboys, like I said this past week, they are the doppelganger to the Cowboys. They are what I see the Cowboys looking like next year with a few more players, but even more high octane because the offensive talent on the Cowboys, I believe, is better, except at the running back position. But I think as far as quarterback and wide receiver, it's more high octane than Detroit. But we got some ways to go. We got to get more physical like them boys.
Where do I point at here? Each game, we must point towards something so we can work towards something. Defense is one place, but like Detroit was determined no matter what. And then when Dallas scored, they still came back and scored. Detroit was determined. But I needed the offense to match it. I don't blame defense totally because the defense has always been the weak link.
I said this about 4 weeks ago in the Arizona loss, and people were mad when I said it. I said this about 4 games ago. I'm not mad at the defense when I already know what the defense is. But in this game, I will have to admit, as much as people are being hard on Eberflus in the defense, man, let me tell you something. The Cowboys' defense back was against the wall. The average starting place for the Detroit Lions was the Cowboys 45. The place that people did not expect the Detroit Lions to really make an impact was special teams. They made a huge impact in that game. They were returning kicks, average of 40 yards on the kick returns. That made a huge difference. Huge difference. And if you're going to put your defense starting at the other team's 45 every single drive, I don't care what you do, you're probably going to get beat. Because that team is going to score field goals and touchdowns all day long. And that's what wound up happening to the Cowboys. And then you mix in a couple of turnovers that they scored off of, and it's a Molotov cocktail. I'm like Michael Irvin. I'm not blaming the defense as much because for as much as they've improved, I'm going to give Dan Campbell credit. Dude had a plan. He figured out how to get mismatches on the Cowboys. He studied their weak links. He figured out so many things. I gotta give Dan Campbell credit. I'm not gonna sit up here and beat the Cowboys up, especially the defense. I'm just not gonna beat them up, man. Dan did a number on them. Defensively, they did a number on the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, I think the thing that I'm taking away the most from Michael Irvin is the Cowboys didn't match that energy. Yeah, I'm telling you. It's tough. It's tough, man. The Cowboys put themselves in a tough situation. They really would have controlled their own destiny, and they got a 10-day break. Come back next Sunday, the Cowboys would have been refreshed. Got a game against the Vikings. You can't look over it, but the Vikings, there's no way. I'm not going to say there's no way, but, it's any given Sunday. The Vikings shouldn't beat the Cowboys. The Chargers will be somewhat tougher, but it's at home. I think the Cowboys take care of business. Those last 2 games against the Commanders and the Giants on the road, I think they'll be tough in the beginning. Cowboys should be able to pull those out too in the end. Neither of those teams have enough firepower to beat the Cowboys. It will be cold outdoors, but I still say the Cowboys got enough to win. But this was a tough one, man. It was a tough one. But at the end of the day, stranger things have happened. Cowboys need to go out, take care of business. This game is over. No use in dwelling on it. Build on it. Come back strong. Win out. See what happens. I still say if the Cowboys win out now, I think it's going to be a good chance Cowboys going to make the playoffs, even though people I think are talking about 9%. I think the Cowboys win out. Some things will fall their way, and I think they'll get in with 10 wins by the hair of their chinny chin chin. But y'all tell me what y'all think about this thing with Michael Irvin, man. Just an incredible, incredible reaction by Michael Irvin, and I think he was on point with so many things. Y'all tell me what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Until the next time, TC4L, God bless. Let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Peace.